And I always make sure that I am live because it's interesting to see because it's got a delay. Yep. We are live. Well, good morning, everyone out there in YouTube land. We are glad that you're joining us this morning. We have lots of good things happening and lots of awesome training and sharing that's going to be with us today. So as you go ahead and join us live, just go ahead and jump in that chat and introduce yourself and let us know who you are and where you teach. And then put those questions there because I know we have a whole team there to help with any questions that you have, and we can answer those live as well. So I'm going to go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves. And this morning, right off the bat, we have celebrating conceptual understanding in the intermediate math. And Andrea, will you go ahead and introduce your team?
I'd love to. Good morning. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm Andrea Higdon, your elementary math lead, here to serve you. And I'm here with an amazing panel of educators that I'll let introduce themselves. Kristen?
Good morning. My name is Kristen Gary. I am the 5th grade math teacher at Smyrna Elementary. I'll pass it off to Karima, sorry.
Good morning, I'm Karima Badwan. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Miners Lane Elementary.
Good morning, I am Felicia Rhodes and I'm a 5th grade teacher at Coral Ridge Elementary.
Good morning, I'm Amber Wise. I am the AIC at Smyrna Elementary.
We are so glad to have you ladies.
Okay. Am I sharing my screen? I think I am.
Looks great.
Okay, get my captions on. Okay. All right, we're here to talk about conceptual understanding with manipulatives and the real world application. We're here because the National Research Council did a study titled Adding It Up in response to the lack of students in the U.S. having mathematical thinking. With the globalization of information technology and the majority of careers in STEM fields, we must support all young people learning to think mathematically and thinking mathematically to learn. And the most empowering thing we can do is this concrete representational abstract sequence of learning. So as we think through JCPS and our 3 pillars, the first thing I look to is equity. We have to make sure every child has access. Soretta Hammond refers to the inequitable access of students of poverty and English language learners and students of color. And we need to support these students to move from dependent learners to independent thinkers and learners. And we do this by providing tools for success. You're going to hear Karima in a moment talk about how virtual manipulative supported her students with fractions with a number sense routine, which one doesn't belong. As I look at culture and climate, we know that part of the culture and climate is equitable access. Every student is a part, and that's important. And manipulatives raise questions, and they get students to engage, and everyone join in. As you look to the right is one of my heroes, Joe Bowler. One of the math norms is everyone can learn math to the highest levels. Our job is to give them the tools to help them see that. And then thinking about the backpack of success skills. You're going to hear Felicia and Amber talk about the prepared and resilient learners at their school as they engage in rigorous tasks and effectively communicate their learning and questions virtually. You'll hear Karima and Kristen talking about their emerging innovators and effective communicators as they engage students in a virtual field trip to Google Earth and baking cookies. As you look at this graphic on the left, it defines mathematical rigor. We know application and procedural fluency come through conceptual understanding. We reach kids with conceptual understanding by providing those tools and manipulatives and math discussions around that. The standards of mathematical practice is the graphic on the right and are equally important as the content standards. This is how we support students to think mathematically and think mathematically to learn. You're going to hear each of these ladies share how students make sense of problems and persevere solving them, and then construct their own arguments and justify. That's math practice 1 and 3. You'll also hear for students look for and make use of structure, looking at patterns, and proving them with the manipulatives. There's so much more. I hope you grab a notebook because we have a challenge for you. But first, I want to show you how to get to these tools. If you go to the NTI page and select Teacher Toolkit, then the second arrow shows you to point to Teaching and Learning, and then Mathematics Resources. From there, you'll scroll down and you'll see Virtual Manipulatives with Workspace. These are the manipulatives from the Math Learning Center, and they're available at all times for free. If you look to the left of the screen, you can also go to mathlearningcenter.org. When you access them, you can open them in the web application or you can download the app. But notice the top 4 support sharing, and our teachers are going to talk about how students are sharing their work and teachers are sharing back and forth with such ease. Now back to that challenge. We're all being pushed and being innovative during this time to reach our kids. So what's the struggle right now? Is it reaching kids synchronously or asynchronously? Is it with tools? Several are listed there. Is it during one portion of workshop, during your number sense routine or your mini lesson or work time or reflection time? As you listen to these ladies, I'm asking you to take a lens. Look at one of these areas that you would like to grow in and take away one idea to try maybe this afternoon. And with that, I'm going to pass you on to Amber.
Hi guys, as I mentioned earlier, I am the AIC at Smyrna. So I'm going to share with you all 4 ways that I have seen virtual manipulatives used by the teachers in my building, but also teachers in the district as well. This has helped their engagement, plus helped the students with that conceptual understanding piece. So the 4 ways that I've seen the virtual manipulatives used is the first through number talks and Jamboards, which is what you see on the slides. The second is by posting these Jamboards into the Google Classroom with the virtual manipulative link so that students can access it on their own time. That goes back to the equity piece that Andrea was just talking about in giving our students the opportunity to access this whenever they can. The third way that I'm going to talk about virtual manipulatives being used is through small group instruction. And then lastly, through modeling using it in pre-recorded lessons for your students. So I'll explain each of those as we go through the slides. But before we start, just a little bit about their journey that Smyrna has taken is that we did not start NTI being able to do all of these things. But we have slowly built up our toolbox to where we can incorporate each of these 4 things. So as Andrea mentioned in the challenge, I challenge you guys to find one thing from our session today and go for it. And each of us here today will be there to support you in any way we can. So let's dive into the 4 different ways that I've seen virtual manipulatives used. The first, as I mentioned, was through the Jamboards. And one of our teachers, 4th grade teacher, Dr. Brewer, she actually learned about Jamboards through the Digital Learning Channel. And she started doing it the very next week after seeing it. And she has used them in 2 different ways through her number talks. The first way is how many ways can we represent 320? And if you see on this yellow sticky note here, there is a link that the students would copy and paste into their web browser, and then that would take them directly to the virtual manipulative link where they can create how many ways to represent 320, and then they would copy that back to the Jamboard. It's super easy for them to do. There's a button down at the bottom called Share. They just click that button, copy their image, and paste it directly to the Jamboard. The other way that you see on here on the right side of your screen is the teacher actually used the virtual manipulatives and the students in this one. So she created a pattern using the virtual manipulatives, and then students have to determine what that pattern is and what the next 2 arrays would look like in the pattern. So on this one, She didn't post the link in a sticky note. What you would do is post it into the chat room of your Google Meet. And I think that way is a little bit better, because if you do it that way, all the students have to do is click on the link, and there's no copying and pasting. They just click the link and it takes them directly to the virtual manipulatives. So in both of these sessions, the teacher was doing it synchronously, so in real time with her students, where they worked on it together. However, you could easily copy the link to your Jamboard into your Google Classroom, and students could access it on their own time. So the third way that I'm going to talk about virtual manipulatives being used is through small group instruction. This is another one of our teachers, Mrs. Simon, and she's a fourth grade teacher as well. And she's continued to do small group instruction through this NTI process, which I think is just amazing. On the left side of the screen, this was one of her first sessions that she did, and she was using paper and pencil at the time, which is fine. The lesson went great. She posed a word problem for her kids, and they worked together to solve it using multiple strategies. They were engaged. They were using their talk moves. I mean, it was like being in her brick and mortar classroom. So after it was over, and we praised her for all the great things that she was doing, we also reflected on how could we improve it. And one of the ways that we talked about was through using virtual manipulatives. You know, before, how did we really know what her students knew? You know, we were asking them why, and she was asking them to justify, but how could you really see? You can't walk around the class like you can in the classroom and see what they're doing. So we were talking about using virtual manipulatives, and she did it. So on the right side of the screen, you see that she used the fraction app virtual manipulatives to show comparing fractions. And she used that semi-concrete bar model or area model. And from there, she went into the more of the abstract way of using equivalent fractions and the least common multiple. But as you can see, the fractions in the bar model are the same fractions that she used for her abstract. She used that guiding process so that the students could really see, okay, all of these fractions in that abstract way really are equivalent. So if I look at the two that have the same denominators, the least common multiple, all I have to do is look at the numerator, and I can determine which one has the bigger parts and therefore is the bigger fraction. So the last way that I wanted to talk about using virtual manipulatives is through the pre-recorded lesson. And this is actually from a teacher not in my building. This is from a teacher at Carrick Elementary. Her name is Danielle Warren. And she used the manipulatives as a way to model for her kids' division. So unfortunately, before we left the school buildings, she did not have a chance to teach division. So she didn't want to jump straight into the abstract way. So she used the manipulatives to help her students really understand that fair share model and why 123 divided by 3 equals 41. She went through and she pulled out all of her 10s, and then her 1s would really show the kids the 3 groups of 41 equals that 123. So there's tons of different ways you can use these manipulatives, guys. Just find one of these ways in here today and just try it. And I'm going to pass it on to Karima.
Hello, my name is Karima Badwan. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Miners Lane Elementary. I'm just going to share a few ways that I've been using virtual manipulatives with my students and a few real-world connections we've been able to make during NTI. I'll start off by saying that the Math Learning Center is a phenomenal resource for your students to have access to the tools that they need to be successful right at home, because we know they don't have base 10 blocks and all those other tools that we normally use. So this would be great for them. A few ways I've been using the Math Learning Center are through Google Slides to create lessons for students and assignments. The 2 pictures that you see on the screen are examples of rounding that I created for a pre-recorded lesson. The great thing about the Math Learning Center is that you can copy the image that you created in Math Learning Center and paste it into a Google Doc or a Google Slide, or you could save the image and even put it in a Google form. But the real game changer with the Math Learning Center is that you can actually copy the link, like Amber said earlier, and share it with your students so that they have access to the same tools that you used in your lesson. Another great tool I know we've heard a lot about recently is Flipgrid. It's a great tool, especially right now. Not all my students are able to get on Google Meets for a number of reasons, but Flipgrid provides them with the option to complete the math at their convenience and still provides them with students. So I shared a Flipgrid. One of my students recorded. She did a really great job at being creative with math manipulatives. She found materials she had at home, such as like Starburst or coins, and she got her little 3-year-old little brother involved. So it's super cute. If you get a chance to watch, check it out. You will not be disappointed. But there's a great new feature with Flipgrid that allows students to actually share their screen. So you can link the Math Learning Center into your topic, and students can be working in the Math Learning Center and show all the work they completed through the recording by sharing their screen. This is going to be much better for us as teachers, because rather than them just holding up a paper after the fact, we can see them in the actual learning process. In the next slide, you can see that another way that I've been using Math Learning Center is connecting it through Which One Doesn't Belong. The one you see on the screen was actually used during a Google Meet, and I also linked the video for you to watch at your convenience. But what I love about these tools is that you're able to support student thinking with something as simple as a visual. So using the fraction bars, my students were able to explain their reasoning and get a clear understanding of why their answer made sense. One of my students was even able to make the connection that 5/3 is 1 2/3 with the help of the math tools. So my students love these problems specifically because there's not really a wrong answer as long as you can defend it. You can also get creative and make your own Which One Doesn't Belong through the Math Learning Center, like I did at the bottom of the screen. Those visuals are also great for them to really get their thinking process going. So I linked the website for you at the bottom. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely give it a try with your students. I know they will love it. In the next slide, you can see that I have also began integrating read alouds with math for my pre-recorded lessons. So this allows for a much deeper understanding of the concept. I know I miss read alouds, and I know my students really love being read to. So this allows us to connect the reading and math, which is really great to do. But one example was I recorded Jack and the Beanstalk, and I compared it with multiplicative comparisons, and the visuals from the text and the actual examples allowed students to fully grasp the concept. For example, like the difference between the height of the giant and Jack, that was a really good comparison for them to get it. We also used circumference and all the King's Tens to review place value. They're all available for free through Epic. And in the last slide, you can see a few real-world connections you've been able to make through virtual trips through Google Earth. This is a really fun way to integrate math. You can have students complete an elapsed time problem to see what time they would be returning or estimate how many miles they traveled to the nearest 1,000. They could add or subtract the total distance traveled. The options are really limitless. I took my students on a trip to Hawaii on Friday, and we started at Miners Lane Elementary and traveled all the way to a major volcano. At the end, students were able to watch me as I made my own homemade volcano erupt. So students were sharing a lot of really great things throughout that they noticed, such as the shape of Miners Lane. They were really surprised that it was like the shape of a Y, and the distance between Hawaii and Miners Lane. But once again, you can make so many math connections, and you can once again connect Math Learning Center with it. Below, I linked some videos for you of the tools that I shared today to help you in using them yourself. If you need any support with anything, feel free to reach out to me via email or Twitter. I'm more than happy to help. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to pass it on to Felicia.
Hello, everyone. As I mentioned earlier, I am Felicia Rhodes, and I teach 5th grade at Coral Ridge Elementary. And I'm here to share a few ideas and show you how I've been using virtual manipulatives during NTI. Manipulatives are a game changer. For some students, it helps to level the playing field. Abstract concepts are essential in doing math. But that being said, abstract concepts are also a source of difficulty for our students who struggle with understanding even some of the basic math concepts. That's where manipulatives come into play. Manipulatives allow students to showcase their understanding of abstract math concepts. During the course of NTI, I've used multiple virtual manipulatives in individual and small guided math lessons. Back in the day, most classrooms only consisted of physical manipulatives, something that you can put your hands on. Nothing is wrong with that at all. I'll still use them in my classroom today. However, now classrooms and our homes have been more equipped with a wide range of technology that can access the internet. As a result of that, virtual manipulatives are becoming very common, and right now we really need that, which lends me to talk about the things I've been using during NTI. There are a lot of virtual manipulatives out there to be used. A few of my go-tos are Didax virtual manipulatives and Toy Teacher. On both of those, don't be alarmed, there is a calculator. And I know that most of you don't want all your kids using a calculator, but for some, it is a handy tool for those who really struggle. Now I'm going to show you how I use virtual manipulatives during NTI. For decimals, I like to use Didax. It's a very powerful tool in regards to place value. During this lesson, students will read the number in word form and then build it with manipulatives on the Didax site. Students tend to struggle because understanding place value is anything but simple. However, manipulatives allow the students to move from concrete understanding to abstract. I also use Didax virtual manipulatives when working with patterns. Some students are able to look at a pattern and are able to generate an answer very quickly, while others can't. This tool allows them to build onto what they see so they are able to then find the answer to the next pattern in the sequence. Now everyone is able to feel successful. Toy Teacher is another great source for virtual manipulatives when thinking about which site that you would like to use when creating lessons. Sometimes struggling learners wonder why they need to learn something because they can't see the connection to their life outside of school. In this lesson that's entitled Money, it gives you a real life situation, buying food at the concession stand. Toy Teacher gives you movable pieces, dollars and cents, which allows the teacher to feel, or the student to feel that they are really buying something at the basketball or the baseball game. Some of my parents really put her daughter to the test. She informed me that she told her daughter that if she wanted to purchase something from the convenience store, that she would have to use her own money and count it out all by herself. Her mother stated that it took a while. The cashier was very patient, but she got the job done and was very proud of herself. During the course of the year, she has really struggled with math, but using these virtual manipulatives in and out of the classroom to add decimals has really paid off, and I am very proud of her for that. The last lesson that you see I've used comes from Toy Teacher as well. Students are able to draw their own shapes. They really love doing that. In this guided math lesson, students were able to build all of the quadrilaterals by following the attributes that were described to them. I also let them try to come up with different shapes that were unheard of, and they had a ball doing that as well. Some virtual manipulatives give students this capability of saving their work. We can now take this a step further by sharing how they solve their problem with one another. Now we are teaching them to become effective collaborators. With this, they are being exposed to different ways of learning. As Amber mentioned above, things can be shared by Padlet, Jamboard, or even by making a video with Screencastify or Flipgrid. If you need any help, please don't hesitate to contact me by email. I look forward to sharing more ideas with you. Now I'm going to pass it off to Kristen.
Hello again, everyone. As I said before, I am Kristen Gary, the 5th grade math teacher at Smyrna Elementary. And I'm here today to kind of talk to you guys about how I use real-world manipulatives with the virtual support that some of the ladies prior to me have talked about. So engaging our students synchronously and asynchronously has been a major challenge through NTI. One of the ways that I am trying to hurdle this challenge is via Google Meets. So what a typical week looks like for my classroom is I will teach a mini lesson at the beginning of the week with as many kids as can come, but we know that in NTI, not everybody's going to be able to show up at the same time. So of course it's recorded, and then the kids have the opportunity to go back and watch later. And even some of the kids that are in the live meet are able to go back and rewatch to try to pick up on some skills. Afterwards, the students would engage in their work for the week, which is going to directly relate to the lesson that I have taught. During this time, they're going to use their strategies to apply at home with their families, and then try to work through a productive struggle that way. Afterwards, that's not where I leave them. I am live for several hours throughout the week in which they can pop on and they can ask any questions that they may have. Sometimes the questions end in a couple of guiding questions from me just to kind of get them right back on the right track. Sometimes I have to reteach in a smaller group based off the child's specific needs in the classroom, just as we would in our regular classrooms. A lot of times it ends in us playing games via the virtual manipulatives that you've seen here. And sometimes it's even a matter of us scrambling around the house to find a deck of cards, or as Karima said, some Starburst or some coffee beans or whatever, just as stuff that they have at home to make it accessible to them. The use of these real world manipulatives are going to give students direct access to the content. I'm going to show you a video in just a second where I engage my students in a cooking lesson. But unbeknownst to them, I was really introducing the idea of dividing fractions, something that we were not able to get to during our time at school. So I'm going to watch this video, or I'm going to let you watch this video for just a second.
Sorry, I'm pulling that up right now.
3/4 of a cup of sugar. So I'm going to get my sugar out. But I have a problem, guys. The only measuring cup I could find today was my 1/4 measuring cup. So if I need 3/4 of a cup of sugar, how many of these guys am I going to have to fill up with sugar? 3. Show me your fingers. Why 3? Gabby, why do you think 3?
I think 3 because if you add 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, it all adds up to 3/4.
What do you guys think about what Gabby just said? I agree. I like it. Cool. Okay, so she's telling me that I can say 1/4, 1/4, and 1/4, and that's going to give me my right amount of sugar. Yes?
Yes.
All right, let's do it. So when you are baking, when you're cooking, it's a little bit different. You can be a little crazy with your spices and stuff, but when you're baking, you want to be pretty precise. So I have a butter knife, and I've scooped up a good amount here, and I'm just going to kind of level it off back in there so that I'm sure that I have 1/4 here. Okay, so count with me. This is 1/4. 2/4. 3/4.
3/4.
What do you think? Good? Perfect. So as you can see, my kiddos really enjoyed that. They were very engaged throughout the whole thing, and making that content relevant and relatable has amped up that engagement tenfold. I even had a family that was baking the cookies right on the other side of the screen, right along with me. They were mimicking my every move, asking questions. It was just a beautiful thing. I was also able to use the Math Learning Center virtual manipulatives, as you can see here, to go back and to kind of semi-concrete support students who were struggling with this concept after the fact. Using these real world manipulatives they've been key in my classroom. And I hope that that's something that you will try out. Along this journey of NTI, I've discovered that high interest is everything. And that when students can relate to what I'm doing on screen, they're way more likely to try it at home. When planning for these experiences, I try to think of how I use math in my everyday life, baking, elapsed time, building things. There's so much math out there. So if you are not a super tech person, that's totally fine. Just think about how your kids are already doing math at home and then help them to see that, hey, you're actually doing math. I know you think you're just cooking right now, or you're just, timing out the video on TikTok, but you're really doing math here. Just help them to understand that math is everywhere. And I hope you will try something to do with your kiddos at home. Back to you, Andrea.
Okay, as you heard from these 4 amazing educators, I love this phrase, and I've been saying it a lot. Perfect never gets off the paper or across the screen, but they shared some pretty amazing ideas, and I know you all have many innovative ideas too. So these ladies and many more are going to join us for a Twitter chat tonight at 8. All you need to be doing is following me, and the questions will stop dropping at 8, and we'll go from 8 to 8:30 and share with one another and build our math community. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. You guys are awesome, and I learned a lot even from watching you again today. It's being able to watch things multiple times helps, and I want to remind you, you have that power of pause on JCPS Digital Learning. So thank you, ladies. You guys are awesome, and keep rocking it out. And I know that as you guys continue to do this, you're going to innovate. And I hope that anybody out there watching is on Twitter, and you will go ahead and use the hashtag JCPSDigIn. And that way we can all learn from one another. And that's digital innovation for JCPS. And by doing that, we learn from one another. And I know, thank you, ladies, for saying, can you reach out to me and via Twitter? And that actually helps because it breaks down those silos for everyone else to then say, oh, I know that. I need that question too. So thank you, ladies, for doing that, because we can all, like I said, learn from one another. So I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you later. So it's 10 o'clock, and we have up next, Write All About It, Writing to Accelerating Learning. And I'm excited to learn as well from Sandra Hogue. How are you, Miss Sandra?
I am doing well. How are you?
Doing well. And I do believe you're Dr. Hogue. Is that correct?
I am. It's there, but I'm Sandra.
Sandra. Well, I'm glad to have you and excited to learn from you. And if you need help sharing your screen, let me know. And then, of course, you've been on here a couple times, so I think
I'm a pro now. So
yes, you are.
I may have spoken soon. Let me see what I can do here.
Okay.
Okay. Are you able to see?
I am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good deal. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Write All About It, Writing to Accelerate Learning. I'm Sandra Hogue, and I am the AIS ELA Instructional Lead with JCPS, and I'm glad to have you with us this morning on the digital channel. Here's the session's
Sandra,
journey.
will you real quick for me, will you turn on those closed captioning?
You know, I've tried and failed at doing this.
It should.
So it's on medium and it's on bottom.
Okay, so just let's see if we can click on that. Yes, and just click it on. Let's see.
Okay, so do you think it's on now?
No.
Turn on.
Turn on. Oh, it won't do it. It's okay. No worries.
And many times as I've been on here, it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Sometimes the button is not even there, so I'm not sure what's going on. It could be my computer, but
okay.
Thank you guys for being here. As I said, here is this session's journey. We're going to look at the why, and then we're going to look at the what. So that that progression from the why to the what makes sense to me. Excuse me. It's difficult for us to accept when people tell us or direct us to do something without having us understand why. And if you have children, and we are all educators, if you have your own children or if you work with the children of others, then we know that they're really good at asking why, and we have to become pretty savvy at explaining why. So perhaps that's why this moving from the why to the what makes sense to me. But we're going to look at what KDE is saying to us about the teaching of writing through a new document that they've released recently, just this year. And so what we'll see is that it will ring familiar because they're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and throwing something all new at us. So we'll look at that document just briefly. We'll look at the standards because they should drive the work that we're doing as educators in JCPS and in Kentucky. And then the what. We're going to briefly, in this 30 minutes, look at writing in early primary, in late primary, in intermediate and middle grades, as well as high school. So as you can imagine, we're only going to look at some just initial thinking behind writing at each of those levels, but hopefully it will plant seeds that you can then take back in your work, in your position. So the why, hearing from KDE. KDE, as I said, has released this document just this year, and it's called Composition in the Classroom. And this is a live link to the document. It's a 30-ish page document that will highlight some of the things that KDE is asking of us as teachers of writers. And so within that document, as I said, it's not all new. they are reinforcing some things that are found in the standards and that they want to be in the forefront of our thinking as we work with writers. The three types of writing, we have writing to learn, writing to demonstrate learning, and writing for publication. We also have the modes of writing, which speak to composition standards 1, 2, and 3, argument, opinion, informative, explanatory, and narrative writing. And then there are scoring resources, which what you'll find in that collection is the rubrics that KDE has provided for us when we are scoring on-demand writing, and the resources that go along with that to help, like the bookmark that students use during K-Prep on that portion of the test. And then for me, those first three are about zooming in, looking tightly at writing instruction and how we must attend to it in our practices. But in that fourth bullet there, the role of research and composition, for me, it feels like they're zooming out and giving purpose to why kiddos would need to know about writing to learn, to demonstrate learning, and for publication, and why they need to know how to craft argument and opinion pieces, informative, explanatory pieces, and narratives. So that's a document we should become familiar with. And I know that Jesse's team, the literacy manager with JCPS, is preparing for some professional learning around that document. There's also the standards for the Kentucky Academic Standards for Reading and Writing. And once again, you could click here and you could access those standards on the KDE website just for your convenience. But they were crafted, once again, to give, to serve as a guide to what we should ensure we are providing students access to within our classroom when it comes to writing instruction. And so that over 500-page document, if you try to read that cover to cover, you'd get lost in it, right? So every time I visit that document, I try to find nuggets based on, the questions I have. And so in this document, they provide, when it comes to composition, a K-5 overview, a 6-8 overview, and a 9-12 overview that will kind of will help you to put in the forefront of your thinking without consuming the entire document. These are some things that if I teach at this level are considered critical components, right? I need to make sure that we're providing kiddos with this, because this is the overview of what should happen at elementary, what should happen in middle school, what should happen in high school. Then I would zoom into the grade level content I'm teaching, but it's a fat paragraph for each of those that will help, provide clarity for what the standards are asking of us. And then we're moving from the why into the what. Writing in early primary can be frightening because we're just, some people tend to think, well, they can't write. They don't know their letters and sounds. They are, don't know how to write their name. They don't know how to hold pencils and that kind of thing. But there's also beautiful, magical things that happen when you invite their voices into the classroom. So I think of the show Kids Say the Darndest Things. Well, they can also write the darndest things. We just have to give them space, time, room, and the tools to do so. And so they are able to articulate using their voices. Of course, that's a more natural sign system for them than they are in writing. So it doesn't mean you won't have to be explicit about supporting them in doing that. But once you do, just step back because there's magic that happens. So with our early primary writers, and you're going to see this at every level, early primary, late primary, middle grades, and high school, I've attached the standards. Why? Because as a teacher, once again, with the contract in the state of Kentucky and with Jefferson County, I have to attend to the standards. I often say, the kids don't have to care about the standards, but by golly, as an educator with a contract here, I have to care about the standards. So I've put that there strategically, but just to remind us of just how important it is that we not get caught up in, ooh, that sounds cute, or ooh, that sounds like a great idea, without first consulting what on these standards are my students ready to learn. This is also a link to a resource that I'm going to feature here from the National Writing Project, and they are out front with research on the teaching of writers, and they have been for decades. And so they look at writers from the earliest grades to really post-secondary, right? So they are looking at writing through research and have been, they have a beautiful body of research where they've explored the best of the best practices in teaching writers. And so I had an opportunity, and I've worked with them for years, but I had an opportunity last year to go to Philadelphia to work with them on teaching the youngest writers. And part of the process that they shared with us over those 3 or 4 days was this sequence here. So you encourage these young writers to draw their stories. Once again, how many times do they come up and want to tell us about their dog or about their weekend or about, there's a resource that I used to use. It was called Weekend News. And so they always tend to come back from the weekends with these amazing, thrilling stories, real or made up, but ready to share. And so they do have amazing things to say. So in this process, they start by drawing their story. And then what they folded into that is draw your information, because we all know if we continue to say to them, draw your story every day, all year long, first of all, that doesn't meet with all of the standards. And second, that becomes redundant and it gets old and it loses its spark, right? So we don't just want to encourage story drawing. We want them drawing information. And if you think about that, that encourages the use of interdisciplinary literacies, right? So we're folding in content areas. So if they're sketching the plant that they're observing and capturing that information, if they're sketching what happened when they conducted that science experiment, if they are sketching something to capture an artifact, for example, of what's happening during COVID. I could just throw that out there. But they are drawing first. These are the very beginning writers. And then they move into kid writing, which means we're not waiting until they know how to spell everything before we encourage them to write. If you do, you'll get things like see, spot, run, spot, run, right? And those of you who are as old as me will find that familiar. And so that's the last thing we want, right? Who wants to read that? That's the reality. No one wants to read that. And kids have far more interesting things to say than that. So you don't want to control it. You want to free them to use sound spelling, to use approximations, to use things like stretching the words out, whatever language or terminology you use with them, to allow them to take risks, right? To understand that they're not going to spell everything correctly, nor should they have to, right? But then next step in the process is adult writing. That's what they call it with the National Writing Project. In this process, I put in parentheses book spelling, because we all know that not every adult spells perfectly. I don't spell everything perfectly. I find myself scratching my head saying, now, how do you spell the word sure? Because it sounds like SH, but I know it's not SH. Oh yeah, it's SURE, right? So we can't put that label of perfection. We can't do that to children, right? We can't say, I like saying book spelling. That's just a personal preference, but National Writing Project calls it adult writing. And then sharing. And so they go through that cycle frequently. Right, daily is what they recommend with the National Writing Project on this link here. And they, kiddos, what they're doing is flexing writing muscles. And this is true at every level. Kids will only, as adults, we only become better at something usually if there's lots of practice, right? So it's flexing that writing muscle. And so the more they write, guess what? The better they will write. So giving them space and time to do that is critical. And then you'll see a link to EL Education, which I encourage us to take a look at, because they have done a beautiful job of building units of study around science or social studies content that encourage kids to read and write and to build their thinking as part of the compelling question idea. So if you think about the sessions from Suzanne Kramer and Ryan New and what the social studies folks have done and what we're trying to encourage as a district, all this year I've been calling them essential questions. Now that I know better, I call them compelling questions, because that's a better term. But using that question to anchor the need for kids to use real reading and real writing. And so that's the goal. That's where we want to go. And then the what at late primary, this document here, once again, all of these are links. And so if you go to the slide deck and you download this, you'll have everything, you'll have access to everything I'm speaking of today. But this document, once again, there are the standards, but this document is one that has been created by under the umbrella of the U.S. Department of Education. And they are part of What Works, though they support the What Works Clearinghouse, which is a vetting system that allows us to say what should and should be happening in various areas of education. And, they're the folks who decide whether a program is worth a school adopting, right? So that What Works Clearinghouse is a direct link to the U.S. Department of Education. And when it comes to elementary writers, here are 4 recommendations they have. They have to have time to write. Once again, if they aren't flexing that muscle, we can't look up at K-Prep and say, darn, our writing scores are still low, right? They're low because what we feed is what grows, right? So if we're not providing students opportunities to write, then of course we shouldn't expect anything other than writing scores that reflect that. So we have to provide them with space and time to write. Now, in that, I want to pause to say I am not at all at any level, except maybe early primary, endorsing an isolated writing workshop. And the reason I say that is because my branch of JCPS currently is working with our accelerated improvement schools. And in AIS, we are the 35 schools in JCPS K-12 that are functioning in the bottom 5% of the state. It's not a badge of honor, but it is our current reality, right? And it's exactly the job I need to have right now. So don't hear that I'm complaining. I'm not. But we are in a position where we are in a place where we have to accelerate, right? So we have greater challenges in the work we do than the other schools in the district. And I often advocate for this thinking that if our needs were identical to the rest of JCPS, then we wouldn't be in AIS, right? So we have to think differently. And what for us that means, we're in a position where we are working from a deficit. Our scores are in a position where our kiddos aren't performing where they should be. And so in many cases, we have our kids who are coming in and they are significantly behind. So there's urgency there for me that I feel and that drives my work with AIS every day. And so in that, when I think about having a separate writing workshop, and Heather Worrell rings in my ear. She branded this in my brain. I heard her speak on it once when she first came to JCPS, and it was the right terminology for what I was feeling in my heart about instruction. But it's especially critical in AIS when we need to accelerate. I always say to our folks, we don't have time for fluff. We have urgency, and so we need to be laser-like focused. And so if I'm thinking in silos of, here's when I teach my writing workshop. Now let me close that. Now come over here. Let me teach my science. Now let me close that. Let me come over here and teach my reading. Now let me close that out. We don't have time for that, because what happens is if we try to meet with the best of the best in each of those content areas in isolation, then I would probably need until 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening in order to cover all of that material well, right? And that's not a reality that we can attain. And so I have to find ways to blend the learning for the students. And so to have a separate writing workshop, it fails miserably every year. I see it time and time again, not just in AIS schools, but all over the district, where we give them that writer's notebook at the beginning of the year, and long about November, you can't find a writer's notebook anywhere, right? Because folks have fallen out of that practice because other things consume that space. So I'm not advocating for a separate writer's workshop. I'm advocating for the interdisciplinary placement of both reading and writing in the content areas of science, social studies, arts, every other content area. They have to work and feed one another. There has to be interdisciplinary connections made with great intention. And the compelling questions give us the great positioning to do that, right? So that gives the why. It gives us some why for blending all of this learning. And it gives purpose to it, right? So I'm not just writing a narrative piece because it's narrative time of the year. And I'm not just writing an informational piece just because it's informational time and I'm randomly pulling things. No, that informational piece should be connected to the science we're studying right now, because that makes sense, right? That informational piece could be connected to the social studies we're studying right now, because that makes sense. And I'm able to fuse the content that is essential, that as a teacher with a contract, I have to be paying attention to, but I'm not teaching them in isolation. So you end up working smarter and not harder. And so I'd love to know your thoughts about that, because I know that's not always a popular approach to this, but that's the way we are working to advance and accelerate in AIS, because we know what we're doing isn't working, because if what we were doing was working, we wouldn't be in the bottom 5% of the state. And that's a reality we have to face. So we have to think innovative thoughts about how to change the rhythm of what's happening with our schools. And so they also, in recommendation 2, I know I went off on a tangent, but that was more of the why. Teaching students to use the writing process. They have to understand that you don't sit down one time and then it's all magic and you're all finished. Ralph Fletcher has been giving writing lessons over Facebook and his YouTube channel during this time, and he's one of my favorites. But one of the things he talks about is he has these notebooks where he's filling them and he's writing things and rewriting things and pulling from old pieces to make new pieces. It's a process. And so we have to make sure we're teaching kiddos that. And then teaching them to become fluent in handwriting, spelling, sentence construction. For some people, that's their writing. Oh, we did grammar today. That's not writing, folks. That's not the whole of teaching writers and teaching writing. In fact, when you look at the standards on KDE, they'll talk about the first, those three modes of writing, standards 1, 2, and 3, where we're talking opinion, argument, informative, explanatory, and narrative, that the other standards, which do start to mention some of these other things, are designed to support standards 1, 2, and 3. They should not be taught in isolation. If you try to do that, once again, even in a non-AIS school, you're not going to accomplish the goals that you've been assigned as an educator. And then that writing process piece, knowing that we're moving to a digital K-prep, as much as you can get kiddos typing, that's a beautiful thing, right? And so you need to have writing as part of a community. I spent more time there than I should have. I apologize. But once again, moving into intermediate and middle grades, these are live. And so you can click on those. Those are links that will take you to, once again, these resources, including the standards and the What Works Clearinghouse, and the U.S. Department of Education also has teaching secondary students to write effectively. And so that's part they have that document. And this one is actually more current than the one at elementary. I'm going to talk here about a few things I've used in the classroom that I've used in my coaching of other teachers and coaches in more recent work that I want to encourage you to have a look at. Once again, there's not a one size fit all. If I had the magic wand, I'd be a blue bazillionaire, because writing is tough for most educators to teach. Not all, but for most. Most will shy away from it because they're just not sure how to get it right. And so these are just nuggets that I encourage you to explore. Rain, Steam, and Speed I was first exposed to this process by Trisha Mealy, who is the AIC at Olmsted North. And she, in this book, Fleming, who is the author, talks through or presents a process that allows kiddos to build their writing stamina. And that is a big piece, right? Because we have kids all the time when we assign or we ask them to write something and say, how long does it have to be? Well, that's a legitimate question, first of all, because some of us judge their writing that way. When you know better, you do better. But also, it's a question that they'll ask because they want to get it right? How long does it have to be? It's also a challenge if we're not writing in front of them. That's a whole other presentation, right? We have to model what we expect them to do. We shouldn't ask them to do anything we're not willing to do. And so in Rain, Steam, and Speed, they provide these writing prompts that will help students to build stamina. It will not make them good writers. It will not. What it will do is increase their ability to hold on to that pencil or to sit at that computer and to crank out writing, which is an obstacle for those kids who are minimalist, right? And so what it does is provide a series of prompts, and there's a whole process that involves classical music played at a pretty high volume and these really robust prompts that are kind of fat paragraph-ish long. And they are under a theme. Each of them has a title, but then there are multiple questions under that theme as part of that paragraph that will allow for multiple entry points for the kids. And so if it's one on friendship, it'll say, have you ever been hurt by a friend? Or have you ever, do you have a frenemy? And how do you deal with resolving those relationships? How do you build a friend? How do you become a friend? How do you mend a damaged friendship? Or, that's just an example and a poor one at that. I apologize. But it provides multiple entry points so that students feel like, I can't write about this whole thing, but I can. This one question within here is something I can speak to. And then they have 30 minutes to write to it. And what you'll find, and I recommend this process once a week-ish for especially, once you hit, once a month-ish for maybe fourth grade. After that, depending on the content you teach, I'm not going to assign a frequency for that. I certainly, though, don't recommend every day. But what the kiddos do initially, they'll go through oh my goodness, this is 30 minutes. This feels painful. But in pretty short order, and even with intermediate students in elementary, I have found that by the time you get to that fourth one, they're looking at you saying, no, it hasn't been 30 minutes already. I'm not finished. I still have things to say. And so they build that writing fluency, the writing stamina. Now, what you can do as the teacher, because once again, it doesn't speak to craft. It won't make them good writers. It will only address the stamina piece. What you can do as the teacher, and I used to do this, is just look at what they were cranking out and say, gee, no one puts a period until the very bottom of the page. We need to revisit, even though I know they already know what a sentence is, the importance of a sentence. Or they're not using any paragraphs, or all of these sentences are the same length and they all start the same, right? So as the teacher, I'm mining that for lessons that I need to provide or inquiries I need to set up. Like, what is a paragraph? When do real authors use them? And here's a clue. They don't all start with a topic sentence, 3 supporting sentences, and a concluding sentence. So when they study what real authors do, they have a better sense of what paragraphs should be, right? So, but, it's not a bad habit to teach them that piece, but if we stay there, that's a problem, right? This resource here, reading and writing feed one another, and that idea in this book, that's exactly what they do. On one page, there's a writing lesson. On the very next page, there's a reading lesson that complements it, right? So once again, that speaks to the need to blend the learning. Craft lessons, these books are as old as time by Ralph Fletcher, but they still hold up as far as giving kiddos explicit craft instruction, right? They have to understand what it means to write well. So in other words, to have them crank out pages and pages on K-Prep or in any piece, right? They're not communicating effectively because it doesn't hit the mark. They also have to have craft lessons. And so this Wondrous Words was written, even though I have it on the intermediate in middle grades, it's applicable no matter the grade, because Katie Woodray, who worked with the youngest writers, has found a beautiful process called the organized inquiry. And if you click on this, it'll take you to the chart that she has in chapter 6 of this book, where she's talking about a process where you notice, you give a high quality piece, you choose those mentor texts, so you put it before them. You can do it with an infographic, you can do it with a literary essay, you can do it with whatever kind of writing your kiddos are about to engage in. Give them model examples and invite them to notice what that author is doing. After they notice it, they give it a name, right? We notice the crafting that we love, we give it a name. We notice it, we ask why we think the author used it, right? Because the authors use those crafting moves intentionally. So you notice it, you ask why the author has used it in that way. And then we name it, because young kids won't necessarily say metaphor, simile, onomatopoeia, hyperbole, etc. So they can give it a name that they can relate to. And they think about other places where they've seen an author use that. And then they move into the final column, which is examples in my work, which is the most powerful, because then it's like, if I see this crafting move working really well in this piece that's a model piece, and I'm applying it to my work, that's the way we grow writers. And then this bottom one here is connecting writing to all learning. These are 2 gems right here. These are my favorites right now in helping me think about my vision for what I see for writing in, especially our AIS schools, where we have to blend the content so that we are providing access for our students. And then at high school, once again, here are the standards, and this document, once again from let me make sure I didn't miss anything. This document from the U.S. Department of Education. With our high schoolers, you'll notice with the standards, and I'm going to speak really quickly here about this part, but with the standards, standard 3 in composition, which is narrative writing, begins to fade, or it begins to take on a different look in grades 8 through 12, right? Because they're advocating for using narrative to bolster the informational piece and using narrative to bolster the argument, but not these separate standalone narrative pieces. And so what we can't do is have kids writing where I'm from poems when they start in kindergarten, and then they're in high school still writing where I'm from poems, right? That poem has to be used in high school instead to bolster a bigger piece, to further the information you're trying to share, to bolster the argument you're trying to make. And so Think Circa has done a beautiful job of merging reading and writing and our ability to talk about argument. And so they use this frame. CIRCA stands for claim, evidence, reasoning, counterclaim. And claim and evidence is something that I taught even, as resource. with elementary grades. And so you can teach students to write a claim and to provide evidence for that claim. And so, for example, we had a kindergarten group who I just introduced the staff to it and told them to go play with it just as a start. It's not this full process, but I said, go play with this idea. And so they put together a bulletin board that was an apple tree. And on the base of that tree, they wrote the claim, our PTA is the best PTA in JCPS, or in the state or in the world. I don't remember the exact language. And then the apples on the tree provided evidence of things that the PTA does that makes them, that supports their claim that PTA is the best. And so this kind of argument leads to citizens who make informed decisions. And I once did a presentation at a conference that said, because my mama said so, right? So what we don't want is people having random opinions, and it's because it's ingrained and this is the way we've always done things. Instead, I want a world where folks are making informed decisions about what they do, moves they make. And so in this document, once again from KDE, you click on it, you have access to it. I don't need to read it to you, but they talk about the importance of modeling, practicing, gradual release, all of those things that we know to be good practice, right? And then this last nugget here, though, talks about the feedback piece, which is critical, right? When we give feedback to students, it can't just be great job, way to go, you rock, or redo giving them a letter grade of F or 60 out of 100. It has to be success criteria specific feedback. And that's work I've done a great deal I've been trying to emphasize a great deal with the cohorts I've been working with this year. But here's a quote that I think is poignant right now. Writing and reading decrease our sense of isolation. Think about where we are in this social distancing era. Reading and writing can help. They deepen and widen and expand our sense of life, and they feed our souls. That's from Anne Lamott. This gives me all the feels. I know I'm probably over time. I'm right at 10:30. So I am Sandra Hogue. Until we meet again, I am AIS ELA instructional lead. I'm on Twitter at Sandra L. Hogue. If you want to give any shout outs or if you want to reach out to me, but I'm on the global as well. I'm here. I'd love to hear your thoughts, any comments, feedback, or anything like that. So thank you for joining me today. And I am going to exit that screen. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that I can see the lovely faces here. Okay, did I do it?
You are awesome. Yes, you did it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. And Sandra, we always love learning from you. And we have lots of people giving praise on the chat. And make sure you jump over there and check out those comments because they are all singing your praises. So thanks again.
I appreciate that. I kind of went off on a tangent, so my pacing was off, but I'll be interested in hearing what they have to say. Thank you, guys. Until tomorrow, have a good one.
Bye. Well, up next, we have a second step transition to kindergarten and preparing for the bus ride. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. We have Holly and Jessica. I'll let you guys introduce yourself.
I'm Holly Stack. I'm a special education resource teacher in the early childhood department.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
I'm Jessica Forst. I also am a special education resource teacher in early childhood.
Yay. Well, I'm a special ed teacher too. So I'm excited before I did digital learning, and I should introduce myself too. It's Elaine Abenatha, Digital Innovation. And I'm excited to learn from you ladies today, and I'll let you take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you need any help with sharing your screen and turning those closed captionings on, just let me know.
Okay. I think I can get it. Okay. Can you see it?
Looks perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So today we're going to talk about how we can use the second step curriculum as well as additional resources to support students at home as they prepare to transition to kindergarten. So to start, we just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Second Steps program. So it's a social emotional learning curriculum that teaches social emotional learning, executive function, and self-regulation skills. So there are 4 components that are required for implementing the program with fidelity. The first one is teaching all of the weekly theme activities in order. So activity kind of builds on the previous week. So you'll see when we start to look at the weekly themes for Unit 5 that they're reviewing some of the skills that they learned prior to getting to this point in the curriculum. So it all builds on the thing before. The second component is playing the brain builder games every day. So brain builders are active, fun games, but they have specific rules and steps that the children have to follow. So it helps them develop the part of their brain that helps them pay attention, remember, have self-control, those executive functioning skills. They also include ways to increase the challenge. So when students start to master the skill that they're working on in the brain builder, you can increase the challenge for them. So it's designed to send a message that their brains can get stronger and smarter with practice and effort. The third component is encouraging children to use skills every day and reinforcing skill use with feedback. So this isn't something that you want to put in your curriculum on your classroom schedule for 10 minutes a day and you do it and check it off and move on. This is something that you should be reinforcing all day, every day in your classroom and encouraging parents to reinforce it, at home as well. Which brings us to the fourth component, which is engaging families with the home link form. So that really helps students be able to generalize these skills. And it's just really important that families are also reinforcing the skills at home for these students. So that's the piece that we're going to focus on the most today. But before we get into that, we just wanted to review that the Second Steps program, the different resources they have available online are actually free for families right now through June 30th. So these are the steps that you can share with families to create a Second Step account, and it has the activation key for the early learning curriculum, which is the curriculum we use in preschool. So they can have access to all of the streaming media and the downloadable content on that website. There's a variety of resources, including the songs, access to those home link forms, the brain builder games, and there's even book lists for children as well as adults. So a great resource for families. We highly encourage you to share it with families if you haven't already. And a lot of the resources are also available in Spanish, which is great. So the final unit of the curriculum is Unit 5, and it focuses on helping students utilize the skills that they've learned as they transition to kindergarten. So the first weekly theme, which I believe we're working on this week, is learning in kindergarten. So it focuses on the listening rules and skills for learning that'll help students be better learners in kindergarten. So again, those are things that they've previously learned in the curriculum that they're coming back and reviewing now at the end. Week 27 is the week that we're going to focus on today, and that is riding the kindergarten bus. So this theme helps students identify their own feelings as well as the feelings of others, and it reviews those calming down steps that they've learned and how they can utilize those when they have strong emotions. So they might be anxious about riding the bus, they might be excited about riding the bus, but either way they can utilize those calm down steps to help keep their body in control when they're riding the bus and getting ready for kindergarten. The final theme is week 28, making new friends in kindergarten. So in this week, they're going to review the fair and fun ways to play, which include playing together, trading, and taking turns, as well as inviting others to play and asking to join and play, which are some really great skills that they've learned in the curriculum throughout the year. Again, just reinforcing and reviewing those at the very end. This is Jeremy Jackson, and he works at George Unseld Early Childhood Center. He has created his own YouTube channel and makes amazing videos based on the Second Steps lesson. So we reached out to Jeremy because we were so impressed with his work and asked him if he would be interested in going ahead and creating a video for week 27, which is the week that we're looking at. And he graciously did so. He does an awesome job of engaging students and supporting families in his videos. So we wanted to share that with you today. We highly encourage you to go to his YouTube channel. There's some great videos that you can share with your students and families. We know a lot of you have been providing videos of the Second Step lessons yourself, which is awesome, and that's great. If you're doing that, please continue to do that. That allows you to model the skills for your students as well as their families right now during NTI, which is great. So I'm going to attempt to play this. I know when I did this presentation Tuesday, the facilitator had to help play the video, so I will try it and you all let me know if you cannot hear it.
I am here for you if you need me.
Thank you. Uh-oh.
This is such a good video. I'm going to go ahead and try it because it's a little glitchy sounding, but let me go ahead and try real quick for you.
Thank you.
Because he is so good. Yesterday I was here listening to you guys and I thought, oh my goodness, except I don't think I have that linked into here. Oh,
It's linked on Tuesdays. I don't think
Okay.
it got linked yet for today.
there we go. And I'll fix that for us. And as you're joining us live, all of these, like we were just talking about, all of these are actually on the schedule if you need it. So make sure that you check those out. Here we go.
Let me just double check and make sure I have everything. I have my folder.
Sorry. I want to make sure it's doing it right.
All right. Let me just double check and make sure I have everything. I have my folder. I have my notebook. I love that notebook. And I have my pencils. Great. Let me make sure I zip it up and don't lose anything. That way everything goes to school and gets back home. Oh, hi you all. How's it going? Last week, you all practiced a lot of skills that are going to help you in kindergarten. These skills are going to help you do all sorts of new things once you get to your new school. Riding the bus is one new thing you might do. Let's practice. I'll pretend to be the bus driver, and you all can pretend to be the kids on the bus. All right, you all, let's... Whoa. Let me practice too. I love riding the big kid bus. All right, Trinity, sit down quietly, and I'll start. Oh boy. Whoa, here we go. Let's go. I can't wait. This is great. Let's go. Yeah.
5 minutes later.
How do you think Trinity feels right now? How can you tell? Trinity is very excited right now. He can't sit still on the bus. But that's not safe. He needs to calm down. Let's help him calm down. Let's work together and think about the ways to calm down. I'll point to a way to calm down, and you tell me what it is. That way, we're going to be able to help out Trinity. There's the first one. There we go. So the first step for Trinity to take is to put his hands on his tummy, on his stomach, and to say, stop. Let's see what the next step is. There we go. The next step is to name the feeling. Looks like he feels excited. Let's think about the next step after that. That's right. The next step after that is to take a deep belly breath, just like Trinity's doing it over here. Now that we know the ways to calm down, let's go talk to the real Trinity. All right, Trinity. Wait just a second there. Well, I was just talking to our friends, and they're reminding us of the ways to calm down. You want to follow the steps real quick? Yeah. Okay. First, put your hands on your tummy and say stop. Stop. Good job. Keep them there. Next, I want you to name the feeling. How do you feel right now? I feel excited. Great job. After that, I want you to take some nice, deep belly breaths, okay? Can you do that? Feel air in all your stomach, okay? Great job, Trinity. Do you feel calm now?
Yes, I do.
Good job. Now that you're nice and calm, Trinity, you can ride the bus safely. Are you ready?
Yep. Thanks for helping me calm down. Now let's practice riding a big bus to kindergarten. If I get too excited again, you can help me calm down with the steps. Thanks again. High five. Yep. All right, let's sit down.
All right, let's get going.
All right, this is awesome. Make sure you're sitting down in your seats.
Well, I think this is the turn onto your streets, Trinity. Let's go. Oh, hey, parents. Before you go, I have a really important message for you. This is about things that you can do at home with your kids. Make sure to ask your teachers about home links from secondsteps.org. Second Steps is the program that I've been getting all this content from. And the whole program is designed to make your kids better problem solvers and to make them better lifelong learners. We want to make sure that you all have access to these tools so that you can help your kids keep practicing these skills even when they're at home. I've included some links to these in the description for this video, so make sure to look down below for that. But also make sure to contact your teachers and check in with them about what you can be doing at home. It really makes a difference. Thanks, you all. I'll see you all later. Bye.
He is so good. I love him.
He did a great job. And my computer was glitching quite a bit when you were playing that. So if I start to break up or if you can't hear me, please feel free to stop me.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. So yeah, Jeremy does an awesome job. And like I said, he has that YouTube channel with more videos that you can share with families. And those are things that they can use all year long, not just watch once and move on. So I'm sure that the kids will be really engaged with that. And obviously Jeremy is very tech savvy and uses that to enhance his videos, but he also does a lot of great things, using the puppets and the dry erase board and the drawings and things like that to engage students as well. So you could always imitate that in your videos and things that you're using with students. So again, thank you to Jeremy for doing that for us. So definitely go check out his channel and reach out to him. He does an awesome job. All right, so now we're going to look at the home link form for this week. So week 27, riding the bus. The first two sections are on this slide. There's a section that has the lesson time, so it tells the family what the student has been learning, and it provides skills that they can reinforce. So you can see for this week, it goes through those calm down steps that they've been practicing and gives them the verbiage they use so they can role model with their students. And then they actually have a game for playtime that encourages them to do that. So it gives an example. It tells them exactly what to say, that we're going to play I'm feeling and pretend you're feeling really excited about riding the bus and then practicing those calm down steps. And then it gives them suggestions for repeating that with different situations and different strong feelings. Let's see. There we go. So the bottom half of the home link form, that third section is story time. So it talks about the story that was discussed in the lesson that week at school, and it gives them the picture that was on that weekly card. So it helps parents be able to reinforce the skills that the students are learning and have that conversation with those guiding questions that they include there at the bottom. And then it also encourages them, again, to role play and practice how Anna can calm down. So this is a great resource for parents all year long, especially when they don't have access to, the videos and things that you've been sharing during NTI. So be able to take this home and share it with families is a great resource. So we also wanted to look at how we could support families outside of just that home links form as well. So we use visual support and videos a lot in early childhood to support all of our students. These can be especially helpful for students who may have expressive or receptive communication delays. students who have a difficult time processing auditory information, just students who are hesitant to talk about their feelings, or really any student can benefit from the use of these. So they're also another great tool to help guide families in their discussions. So it gives them something to reference when they're talking to their students about these big, strong emotions. So these are just examples of visual supports for emotions, and these actually came from the second step curriculum, but you could use any visuals that you have. So if you were using visuals in the classroom with a student to help them identify feelings, if you have access to those and could share those with families, obviously that would be great to use those that they're familiar with. So you can also provide some videos. So these are just some examples of videos that focus on emotions. The first one is Elmo shows emotions. So Elmo says he wants to teach his friends about emotions, and they're going to talk about how they feel. And so he's happy, and then he wants to show what it's like to be sad. So he starts to look for someone that's sad, but he finds Zoe, who's proud, and Big Bird, Bert, who's angry. And then he finds Big Bird, and Big Bird points out at that point, Elmo looks sad. So then Elmo's happy that he's sad, which is kind of funny. But the next one is Name That Emotion. So Murray finds characters and asks them to tell about how they're feeling. So I believe the first one is Chicken, and he says that he's feeling good and he can't stop smiling because he laid an egg, and then he asked them to name the emotion that he's happy. So it's a cute video to share as well. The last one is just a short little song about emotion. So it says, I smile when I'm happy, I cry when I'm sad. At the end, it says every feeling is okay, which is important to reinforce for our students. But it also says if you're feeling grumpy or you're stuck in a bad mood, give yourself a hug and say goodbye, bad attitude. So it talks about being able to move forward when you do have those, bad or sad emotions. So I thought those were all great video resources that you could share. Of course, there's plenty on the internet that you could find. We just encourage you to make sure that you're viewing them and make sure that they're age appropriate and, reinforcing the skill that you're trying to reinforce before you share those with families. So it could also be beneficial if you provide some guiding questions that families can discuss with students. And again, you can encourage them to role play the situations and things like that to make it more active learning for students. These are some examples of visual and video supports for calming down. So on the left, that is the actual calm down poster from the second steps curriculum that goes through all of those calm down steps. And then on the right is another Sesame Street video that's with Rosita, and she is learning to belly breathe. So it's actually a video that they uploaded recently. So it is current and talks about how Rosita wanted to go outside and play with Elmo at the park, but her mommy and poppy says that she can't do that right now. So she's feeling frustrated, and she goes through how her mom taught her to take belly breaths to calm herself down. So I thought that was a great example that you could share with families now also. And then you could also just provide visual and video support specific to the bus. So these are just some examples of visuals for things like getting on the bus, getting off of the bus, crossing the street safely, sitting the correct way in the seat. Again, if you have visuals that you've used or visuals with your own students, that's even more beneficial. There is also a link to the kindergarten bus video that JCPS provides. So that gives parents some important information also about being at the bus stop at least 5 minutes early, waiting for the bus driver to signal to cross the street if you have to board on the opposite side of the street. It also talks about making sure that there is an adult present at the bus stop at all times with those kindergarten students. So that's a good way to share that information with families. And of course, given the extended length of time that it's been since we rode the bus, even kids that are maybe familiar with riding the bus still may benefit from these videos and pictures, as well as those who haven't had an opportunity to ride the bus, or those that may have been struggling with those following the rules on the bus. Don't want to go too fast, but I know we're running short on time. So another great resource that you can share with families is social narratives. So this is just a short, quick social narrative that Barry McDonald put together to share, just brief, to the point, very simple for students. You may have social stories that you've shared before. You could also reach out to your ECE resource teacher. We have a lot of great resources that we can share. If you want to find some that are more specific to students and specific skills, we can definitely assist you with that as well. But again, that's a great resource to share with families and students. You can also provide songs and activities to engage the students. in learning about riding the bus. So this was just a cute little thing that I found. It was actually on Teachers Pay Teachers, but it's a free resource, so you could go to her page and download it. It's the bus ride. It's just, short, to the point, sweet little song, and there's actually a QR code that links you to a YouTube video of someone singing the song. And then there's an activity that goes along with it. So if parents have access to a printer, they could print this sheet, or you could always just have them draw a picture on a piece of paper of how they can be safe on the bus. So again, engaging the students in that activity. You can also provide them a list of books. These are some books that are available electronically. The first one, Max Goes on the Bus, that's available through the Louisville Free Public Library. And then at the bottom, those 3 books are available on Epic. So right now, Epic has free remote student access through June 30th. So families can sign up for that, teachers can sign up for that, or parents can sign up for just 30 days for free on Epic. So all 3 of those books there are available on the Epic website. All right, and then I think Jessie is going to jump on and review some of these tips that you could share with parents and guardians who may be a little anxious about their kindergartners riding the school bus.
Yes. So I taught kindergarten for many years, and I am very familiar with that transition from going to school on a bus with all preschool students to riding a bus with big kids. And that can be a little intimidating to children and their parents. So we always want to make sure that families know to remind their child to choose a seat in a row close to the bus driver. It's also recommended that families introduce themselves, because not always are all parents or guardians able to be at the stop in the morning, because they may have other child care providers supporting them with getting their kiddos to and from school. So find a time to meet your bus driver, get to know the child, and then share any special needs that your child might have and how that might impact their ability to travel safely. Practice those calm down steps, and find that link for Jeremy and his YouTube channel, and engage your kiddo in those videos all summer long, so that they can build positive feelings about the start of a new school year as a kindergartner and riding the bus with other children that are older than them. Always make sure that your child's bus tag is on their backpack. I know that I have a 1st and 4th grader this year, and we have reapplied those bus tags numerous times this school year. So you always want to make sure that's on there. And lastly, our last page of the slideshow are all those resources that we shared with you today, from Jeremy's YouTube channel, the Sesame Street videos, and any other visual supports and books that might help get those kiddos excited about school and riding the bus safely. We thank you all for your time this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you, ladies. I know that this is a extremely interesting happening for some of our students that really need these tools, and as well as even students that are a little older and may have some disabilities. And these videos are wonderful for modeling, and so it's not just for preschool. It could be for students that are definitely getting started riding a school bus. So thank you for sharing all these awesome tools and links, and his YouTube channel still blows me away. So it's super cool. Lots of people on the chat with us this morning, and I want to give a shout out to Barbara Johnson. She said, this is such a great resource for our preschool kids and families. And then we've got Jessica Forrest is here with us, as well as my teammates Russ and Kathleen. So I want to shout out to them. But make sure as you are joining us, you drop in who you are and where you teach and what you teach, as well as introduce yourself, and any questions, make sure you put those in the chat as well, because we have a whole team behind the scenes that are going to help you with any of those questions. So up next, we have our innovative digital leadership strategy with NTI, and we have several principals here, as well as my teammate Heather Worrell, and we've got Tanya Arnold from Fern Creek. Hello, Miss Arnold, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. And we also have Stacy Rowan, who's the principal at Slaughter Elementary. How are you, Miss Rowan?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing well. And good morning, Heather. Almost afternoon.
Good morning, Elaine. Thanks for introducing our awesome principals. We're so excited to feature them this morning on the Digital Learning Channel. Happy Thursday to our viewers. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Are you ready, Tanya and Stacy?
Yes.
I'm ready, yes.
Okay. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen. We've all gotten really good and more digitally agile at screen sharing during this time. All right, can you see this, everyone?
Looks great.
And next, I'm going to turn on my captions. There we go. Okay, and so I'd really like to just start with this slide about digital transformations. And in JCPS, we know that digital transformations happen when digital agility is modeled from the top. And so every day this week, we've talked about this pyramid and what a great job that our district leaders do of leveraging digital tools to create digital workflow to lead our district teams and work with our principals, and then our principals, which we're featuring 2 today. We featured several this week, and how they are digitally agile and leveraging the digital tools to create that digital workflow to lead their schools. And then the benefit of that is that our teachers, library media specialists, STCs, SDILs, have experiences through technology, through their principals' leadership. And then, of course, we always have those early adopters who we call those the sprinters. But for those teachers who lack the confidence with technology, they're getting exposure to the digital tools through the principals' leadership. But we make no bones about it, our end game is through this structure that we build the confidence and competence of adults so that they feel more comfortable integrating technology into their instructional design. Because our end game is that kids in our classes are getting to create and innovate with technology. So, this NTI period has really allowed people to live in the growth zone where they have time to learn technology and they're trying new things that they've never tried before. So we're bringing on principals to talk about that strategy. And we're asking them these 4 questions. What systems have you and your team created to support your NTI strategy? What are those lessons that you've learned during this time? And this is the question that I'm really excited about. Where are you heading as we ramp up for the next school year? How will this impact your vision, your leadership vision for the next school year? And then, because it is Teacher Appreciation Week, who are those staff members that have been so effective? We call them the NTI stars. We've been on a star search. Who are those teachers that you want to shout out that have been effective during this NTI closure? So we started on Monday with these 3 rock star principals. Jack Jacobs, who everyone knows that there is a school signature item in the backpack, and actually at Bloom, it is all about digital skills. Faith Stroud, she was one of the first pioneers in JCPS to pilot a one-to-one Chromebook several years ago. And then Willie Foster, who really speaks to how he's been able to sustain a strong school culture using digital tools during NTI. Then we moved on to Laura and Stephen, who really shared their infrastructures for communicating with staff and parents. And then yesterday we had an all-star middle school team talking about how this has impacted their relationships with parents and how they've been able to sustain school culture and create systems of efficiency, and how this also will transform instruction moving into the next year. So that brings us to these 2 fabulous ladies, Tanya Arnold and Stacy Rowan. So we're excited. I'm going to stop screen sharing to hear from them. Oops, wrong.
Heather will be right back with us. I know she accidentally closed out the wrong. There she is.
I got lost in all my tabs.
All
So
is well.
That's the beauty of on demand. We're going to be able to edit that out, right? Right, Elaine? I had too many things open.
No problem.
Let's turn it over. Stacy, since I see you in the bottom right corner of my screen, we're going to start with you. Could you share a little bit about your strategy during this NTI closure period?
I guess some of the strategies that we currently do, some of the things that we do, we've always done, but because this is different and the learning is being done with the computer, one of the things we have started was, I know the district rolled out a choice board So we took a look at that, and with the help of another friend, I kind of got some ideas from them. She works with another district, and we decided to do our choice board in the form of a must-do, can-do columns where students obviously the must-do are the things that they should be doing, and then once they've completed that, they also have another column with what they can do. And I like this format because it also it touches on like personalized learning. It also touches on deeper learning and project based. And yeah, basically that's one of the things that we have incorporated this year. And we also have a system where we communicate with families. We have a family contact form that teachers are filling out weekly, especially when they cannot get in contact with certain students. And my attendance clerk kind of mans that, and she coordinates with the other classified, and they're the ones who go about contacting families. So I think that's been the strongest things that we've done this year so far that I'm really proud of that. And so we just this past week, we had 96% of our students participating in NTI.
Congratulations. That is extremely high. Stacy, those choice boards, so are you leveraging the district choice boards? Are your teachers using those to help them make choice boards for their individual classes? How's that work?
So actually, before we were confined to our homes, our teachers were already ahead of the game as far as with planning. So we've already had cycle 4 planned out. So they pretty much used cycle 4 and created their lessons and choice boards based on that. We also, for our students who are non-digital, we are using the district's choice boards, but for the most part, our teachers are the ones creating those lessons for that choice.
That's exciting. So that kind of leads us to the next question. Based on everything that you and your staff have learned, which by the way, Elaine, we see some slaughter teachers representing in the chat over there, don't we?
Yes, we absolutely do. They are, Shannon Phillips says hello, and let's see, Liliana Quintana, she's from Fern Creek, so they are all over here singing your praises, I know. And let's see, we have Lee Slusher too, so, and Bev Verbert, so they say hello.
I think Russ has issued a little bit of a challenge. Are the slaughter teachers or the Fern Creek teachers going to represent in the chat? So they're hopping in there and rallying their principals, which is exciting. So the question is, based on everything that you and your staff have learned, and it sounds like choice boards with the can do and must do. I haven't heard that yet. So that's a really innovative or good idea, an innovative idea. So how will this impact as you all prepare for next year?
I think because it's going over so well with the can do, must do, I think it perfectly aligns with our racial equity plan with student voice and choice. And I think it's just that one step further as far as personalized and individualized instruction where students can actually choose what they want to do. With classroom assignments or even homework. So I do think the can do, must do format will be something that we will carry over for next year. It's going to be a part of our system now that I see that it does work.
Yes, and that is to me one of the biggest silver linings in all this is we're seeing the power of technology tools for personalization and differentiation and choice and voice and all those things like never before. So let's talk about Teacher Appreciation Week. And NPI stars, like who would you like to really shout out and celebrate?
That's very difficult to do. I honestly cannot sit here and pinpoint one particular teacher in my building. And I tell my teachers this all the time, and I'm going to say it out publicly, but slaughter is the best kept secret of JCPS. We have some of the hardest working teachers in JCPS, and if you were to visit some of their classrooms, even now with NTI, you would feel as if you're sitting in their classroom, like nothing has changed, and which is pretty amazing. So I honestly, again, I can't sit here and pinpoint one particular teacher, but what I can say is those teachers that I feel are the most effective are those same teachers who are they're continuing to pre-plan, and they're organized with their lessons, and they have really good relationships with their students. So, and I commend them, especially during this week, being that it is Teacher Appreciation Week. That I'm very proud of the work that they're doing right now. So
I have visited your school and spent time with your team, and you guys really do have it going on. I love the energy in your building. Your assistant principal, she is a bright star in the district as well. You guys are taking some risks with integrating technology and VR, and a couple of, was it Project Lead the Way you all were looking at?
Yes, we have Project Lead the Way, yes.
Yes, so you guys are definitely a very innovative elementary school in our district, and we're so proud to showcase you and your team on the channel. So we're going to get your final comments after we hear from Tanya, and we'll go ahead and shift over to Tanya Arnold. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're excited to hear from you. Take it away.
Okay, well, I have to say, just like Stacy mentioned, this has been a really, I guess, eye-opening experience for our school, just to already see the wonderful things that have been going on in the classroom. I think this NTI experience has just really highlighted what our school is already doing. But it has allowed us to already put the focus on some of the important work that we've already have been doing in our school. I'm going to try to share my screen and see.
Your whole staff is watching right now.
I know, that kind of makes me nervous.
In the chat. I know, I think even your bookkeeper's there.
Can you see my?
So scroll up to the 3 dots in the top right corner.
Okay, I got it up there.
Share screen, and then click the actual screen, and you'll be good to go. This is your principal modeling her digital.
I know.
You can do it.
I can do it. Let's see. Is it there? I don't think it's there.
There we go. You're doing it.
All right. Do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes. If you hit present, we're going to want you to turn on your captions. So do you know how to do this, or can we help you?
I do not know how to turn on the captions.
Click hide for me down on that white and blue bar.
Okay.
Now scroll over to where it says captions on the black bar on the left. And then, you got it. You can make your text larger, smaller.
All right, there we go. So I just wanted to go back and look at our mission. And our mission was to provide a safe and nurturing academic community where all members are empowered to achieve their highest potential whenever we went back into the NTI process.
Tanya, try those captions one more time. So just click captions. Yep. You're good. It should be good to go. You should start talking for me.
Okay, so whenever we went back into the NTI process, I just wanted to make sure that we were really looking at our mission of our school, and just making sure that we were providing that safe and nurturing academic community where all of our members were empowered to achieve their highest potential, and really that we were creating that structure around it. So
that caption button one more time. I am so sorry.
That's okay.
Just push it. There you go. You got it.
All right.
Click allow, that you're going to allow your microphone to work in the top left corner.
All right.
Yay. Now we got it.
Got it. So we just wanted to make sure our mission was really captured within our academic culture. And academic culture was one of the things that we're really focusing on in our school. So looking at System 1 and System 3, particularly making sure that we were looking at our standards and curriculum implementation, specifically at 1.7, that all student populations, including but not limited to the students of color, ECE and ELL, had access to on-grade level standards-based instruction, and that 3.4 with the unit and lesson design included explicit considerations for the use of high-yield instructional practices, and the cultural and social contributions of diverse students populations, including but not limited to students of color, ECE students, and ELLs, to ensure relevance and equity, and 3.5. And we've really been working on this all year long with our embedded PD, our professional development. So whenever we went to making sure that our school portal, we really wanted to make sure that all of our parents had access to our school portal. So we looked at the majority of languages that were spoken in our school. And we wanted to make sure that our school portal replicated those major languages. So Arabic, Spanish, French, Kinyarwandan, and Nepali were the languages that we put on our school portal so that the parents could understand the school portal whenever they came to find the students' choice boards. And then we wanted to make sure that we were supporting the languages whenever the teachers or our school community were calling the parents to support them. So we were making sure we're using those language lines that were provided from the district to talk to our parents and reaching out to communicate. We also wanted to make sure that whenever choice boards were provided for the parents or for the students, that we were replicating the district choice boards. And we did that in our school. We used the same colored backgrounds for each grade level. But we also, if you look, you'll notice that this is a 4th grade choice board for this week. You'll see that there's ESL support on here links, and there's also ECE support links on here, so that the teams, when they plan, they plan in collaboration with our ECE teachers and also our ESL teachers, and they link support on there for the students and for the parents so that they know exactly what can help to support their students whenever they're working from home. And if, a lot of times we have students that do have that digital support at home, but they may not have access to it. They may have 4 or 5 siblings at home. So they may only have that support for a short period of time. And that the parents can see exactly, maybe they can print that support, or maybe they can watch that video, the child can watch that video, and we'll have that support for that period of time at home.
Well, that is remarkable. And your team, you have like a pep rally going on in the chat over there, just so you know. A lot of the teachers and staff have turned out. Dr. Coleman is also there and wants to give you and Stacy a shout out. She said she loves the Zone 2 leaders. Anything else, Elaine, that you'd like to share from the chat that you see going on?
Oh my goodness, you have your art teacher that has joined. I've seen counselors that have joined, and they're definitely, they shouted out to that you had on your choice boards the languages, the different languages there. And I thought that's just different. I haven't gotten to see that. So, and then I wondered even if you possibly had kids that would click on that, just be curious what that language looks like and be able to kind of compare what their language is with the same thing from another language. And that's just fantastic. Love it.
Well, I have to say, our staff has have really embraced our community of language learners. And I have to really applaud our teachers that have been working collaboratively with one another. Looking at Teacher Appreciation Week, and just our entire staff has done a great job of really beginning to embrace that. How can we engage all of our families and all of our different languages? And our students are really good about looking at these different cultures and how, Ramadan's going on right now. And one of our teachers, I was in her classroom, and she was teaching about, had one of our ELL teachers come in who's celebrating Ramadan. And she was teaching about what Ramadan is and how that looks. So, we're starting to see that culture shift, and, how we're looking at these different cultures, and how it maybe parallels your own, but also how it's different. And I think this NTI process has maybe allowed that to happen a little bit more.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Yesterday we had Shalonda Foster, who's the principal at Western Middle School. And if you didn't get to see her episode yesterday, you should go back and watch it. She talked, did you see it, Tanya?
I did.
she talks about how she thinks that her school community is closer to her parents and better connected and in tune with the parent, as parent stakeholder group than ever before. And I just thought that was just amazing to hear. And it sounds similar to kind of what you're saying now.
I would agree with that. I see that there have been many opportunities to allow us to make better connections with our parents through this process.
So another silver lining. So a lot of people are in the chat. Michael Terry, your executive administrator of Zone 2 Elementary Schools, is in the chat. He says you're doing a fantastic job. So thinking about everything that we've learned, Tanya, what do you think you will take into your strategy for the next school year? What are some lessons learned and some things that you want to incorporate as you build that ramp?
We were in a coaching session yesterday with a group of teachers, and it was our 5th grade team. We were actually discussing some of the strategies that we wanted to do with our parents next year as far as engagement. One of the things we wanted to look at was offering professional development sessions for our parents, and looking at how we will bring them in to work with digital access and how we will work with like Google Classroom. And
you're going to provide professional development for parents. I think I just got cold chills on Google Classroom.
Yes,
so great idea.
We've even discussed this with our kindergarten team as well. So how can you work with your kindergarten student, getting them logged in? And even thinking about as we move more toward a one-on-one environment with our district, this is going to be, providing the homework more on devices. So what does a Google Classroom look like? How do you provide these opportunities for students without access? I think it's going to provide all of our schools more innovative ways to do things than we have in years prior.
Extend learning beyond the brick and mortar school day. And
Absolutely.
That's what Faith Stroud talked about in her session. She talked about how this will impact ESS.
And we actually are doing a summer session, a virtual ESS session this summer.
Wow, very exciting. Okay, so it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and you have a lot of teachers in that chat. So what do you want to say to your teachers or a teacher or a group of teachers?
Honestly, I cannot be more proud of where we were because Heather, you came in whenever I first stepped into this role, and where we were as far as digitally in classrooms. And, we were just talking about setting up Google at our school and a classroom and modeling it. And where we are now, we have, and this is from top to bottom. Our school has moved miles from where we were. And
now you're a Kentucky Go Digital presenter at conferences. And you have an episode on the Digital Learning Channel with Melanie Page.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, viewers, you need to check out her episode with Melanie Page. Is it on Kentucky Go Digital too?
It is.
Now your school's like a state leader in thinking about supporting teachers with their tech, digital agility development. So
we just, it could not be done without the teamwork of the staff that we have in our building. They have just really started to grasp on to what we're doing and take the reins of what needs to be done in our school. And it could not be done without the teamwork that we have.
Awesome. Well, Stacy, any final words that you have now that you've listened to Tanya and we've talked about a few of these questions?
Yes. Well, excuse me. A lot of things that Tanya has mentioned, I must agree with her. This process has definitely caused us to be closer with our families. Not only that, just the collaboration. You could see true collaboration with our teachers, our EL teachers, our ECE teachers. And none of this work, this work can't be done without the help of them as well. But some of the things that as far as, can I talk about moving forward? Some of the things that we definitely will
Absolutely.
So Kathleen Receiver has been to our school and provided professional development for Google Classroom for our staff. So my teachers were pretty much already kind of used to Google Classroom, and our students we have been one-to-one Chromebook for 2 years now. So one of the things that I feel that we need to work on moving forward is providing that certification, some sort of Google Classroom certification or professional development, not just to, I love the idea about the families, but I think our students need some type of formal training on Google Classroom. So that's our next steps as far as moving forward. And definitely if NTI is something that the district is bringing as a practice that we will use in terms of if we have like snow days and things of that nature, I'm just wondering if there's some kind of way we could alter the attendance policy for students who are out sick. We have those students who never miss, but then all of a sudden they may get the flu one time and they're out of school for a few days. Can we not use that NTI platform? And maybe that will help increase the attendance rate. So
great idea.
Yeah, that's something to look into. Definitely, I'm not sure.
Also, when teachers are out, when we think about substitute teachers, our teachers are currently building banks of videos, on-demand videos. So I think even when our teachers are out, the learning will continue in a stronger way, more intentional way.
And I'm going to have to let you guys know, as a special ed teacher, an ECE teacher, having the digital tool embedded into the classes that I went, because I needed to jump from class to class, it was allowed me to keep in the know and make sure that I supported my students, and because I was able to be a co-teacher, a true co-teacher with the teachers. So those digital tools helped me as an ECE teacher tremendously.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do agree with that. But yeah, basically that was all I wanted to share.
I think that's great. And we have to give Kathleen Receiver a shout out. She is
absolutely
a remarkable district leader, and we're so lucky to get to work with her. And Jim Unger supports your STC, so shout out to both of them. So Elaine, we're going to be back tomorrow. We have 2 more principals from Zone 2. We had so many principals from Zone 2 get nominated, we had to break it into 2 sessions. So tomorrow we have Danelle Randall, and she is at Simple Elementary, and we have Ben Pinnock, and he is at Wilt Elementary, and then we have several principals next week as well, and we're building an entire playlist of principals talking about NTI strategy and where they're going to head next. So really exciting stuff. Let's talk about the chat real quick before we let them go. I mean, we've been doing this for 4 weeks. And I must say, I have never seen a more enthusiastic chat than we have had for this 30-minute session. The creek is rising. I mean, there's all kinds of good stuff. Dr. Coleman had a couple of points. She was very interested in that parent training and in doing some sessions on that and that vision. What else do you see in there, Elaine?
Lots of love for sure. They're all like you said, they're way to go. Adrian Titus said, I love the way that these leaders are thinking about the growth of the entire learning community, teachers, students, families through NTI. And I love also what you said about having this ensure this whole infrastructure of NTI now going on to snow days and sick days, and even teachers being out for a prolonged amount of time. So it's just going to support so many people. But and then Dr. Coleman says, I love the way you're thinking, Stacy. Kids do need support in knowing how to use Google Classroom. So great thinking. And you could do badging for your kids, and so they could get that badge. I love that. Awesome.
And there was a great virtual PD yesterday on the badging.
Yes, if you missed yesterday's PD, where was that teacher from? Which school?
Middletown.
Oh my goodness, we'll get that on the channel on demand, but his digital badging session was out of this world. I'm like, you talk about a star search, he was like hidden somewhere and we found him. So, a lot of people have asked the digital innovation team, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we, we think about next year, and what we always say is the answer to how is yes. We will move heaven and earth for kids. Anything is possible. The sky's the limit. So principals, teachers, you keep dreaming it up, and we will find a way to make it happen. Thanks so everyone for a great episode today. Thanks to our rockstar principals, Stacy and Tanya.
Thank you.
And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Elaine.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You guys
Bye.
have a good lunchtime, and we have one more little session before we do take a break. We have where Carrick's choice board journey is using compelling questions, and so we've got these ladies, Carrie Gray, Olivia Pinland, and Danielle Warren, and I'm so glad to welcome you guys. But before we take it away, we have a few minutes. I want to make sure that everybody knows that as you join us on this channel, that when you come into here, make sure that you know we've got those playlists. Heather just mentioned those. And when you go in, you just click the playlist. And we have tons of playlists that are catered right to helping you with Google support playlists. We've got special areas. And so we've even got teacher playlists. So all of these can help you with your digital agility. And we know that we have rock star teachers out there. And we too want to make sure that we put spotlight on you as well, because we all learn from one another. This really is a team sport, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to just, when we're together, we're brilliant. So I love how Heather reminds me of that. But as you're into this channel, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And the reasoning behind that is that you get notified when different videos are uploaded, as well as you get notified that when we go live, and you can have easier access to those new videos or even the live streams. So we are just right about here at 11:30. We've got Carrick's choice boards and journey and using compelling questions. I'm Elaine Abenatha, digital innovation leader for middle school and state agencies, and I'm excited to learn from these ladies. Hello.
Hi, thanks, Elaine. We're so excited to be here today. I'm Carrie Gray, I'm the AIC at Carrick, and I've got two teachers here with me if they will introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Danielle Warren. I'm the fourth grade teacher at Carrick.
And I'm Olivia Pinland. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Carrick.
So, Elaine, I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Okay. If you need help with turning the captions on, or I know you ladies have been on, I've listened to you while I've gotten to join in too. So if you need help, I know you guys have done this a couple times.
I'm feeling like we're becoming pros. How's that? Are we ready?
Oh, not yet. Let's see.
I'm not yet a pro then.
Okay. It's okay.
Hold on. What did I do wrong? Let me try that again. Okay. Now we should be good to go.
Yes. Yep. And then when you click present, we'll just click on that closed captions for those people who would like to read along. Perfect.
Right. Now we're rolling.
Thank you.
Okay, so sorry about that. So we're here to tell you about our journey at Carrick, creating choice boards using compelling questions. And we really thought in order to begin this discussion, we really need to take our journey all the way back to last summer. That's really where I feel like the heart of our work began. So what we did this past year is really put our heart and soul into focusing on developing and strengthening our PLCs, our grade level PLCs especially. So when we started that work, we went all the way back to what is our mission, what's our vision, and where do we really want to go as a team? So as you see in this photograph, we even got the t-shirt, we're on a mission, because we really were on a mission this year. And this is our leadership team, and we worked very hard along with our staff and community members to revamp our mission and vision into something that would drive all of the decisions we made this year. And with that being said, this team that you see pictured here became the strong driving force behind everything that we do. And our Carrick teachers have gone through a lot of change this year. They have learned an enormous amount, all the way from guided reading with Jan Richardson, like most people, to piloting a math program with illustrative math this year in elementary. So they have tackled a lot, and just mentioning those two things doesn't really speak to the volume of new things they've tried this year. So I really wanted to just hit on this because ILT has really been a strength in helping move our teams. And I wonder if Danielle or Olivia would like to add from their point of view working with ILT.
I would love to add. So I will say that we honestly could not have done this without Carrie Gray driving this for us this year. She started ILT over the summer. We all just kind of became one big family this year, starting at Carrie's house over the summer, talking about our vision, our mission, these t-shirts, just down to having fun together. ILT really formed a strong bond, and our team leads seriously, truly lean on one another, and we positively influence each other. If one of us is on board, we are all in. We text each other, ask to see what each other's team is working on, and then we usually carry that influence back to our team. And our teams really buy in because ILT is so strong and dedicated. We are literally like a big group of friends. We enjoy our time together. There are a lot of group texts that happen, just trying to feed off of ideas from one another and ways to get our teams going. And it has really kind of lit a fire under our staff this year. So I would say we are truly on a mission together this year.
And I would agree with Danielle. I think that because ILT is so strong, it helps fuel the fire elsewhere throughout the teams. And, everybody just has the same end goal in mind. Everybody just wants to do what's best for the kids.
Thank you, guys. These two ladies are obviously on our leadership team, so it's nice to hear from their perspective as well. And taking all of that information, ILT actually met before spring break. So if you go back and remember, we weren't even working back then, but our ILT thought it was critical that we met as soon as we could to get the plan in motion for NTI. And during our ILT meeting, we discussed having choice and voice and some flexibility for our parents seemed to be the most important thing to be able to offer during this time. So we loved what the district was doing with choice boards, and our parents were giving us really good feedback. So we decided every grade level was going to create a choice board each week, along with daily teacher lessons. And we tried to get as much math and reading and writing in as we could. So you can see laid out here kind of what our plan looked like. And teachers were going to teach lessons to connect to what they were putting on the choice boards. And then we have a staff slide deck where all of our staff are doing read alouds, recording read alouds, and adding comprehension questions. So teachers are pulling from every staff member in the building to showcase a read aloud every day throughout the week. So we just wanted to make sure our kids had access to literature. And so that was one way we were trying to make that happen. So where did we begin? So with our choice board creation, we really were doing kind of what we saw the district doing, and that we were going to create these choice boards. There weren't really a connection or a theme that brought all of the activities together, but we were going to try to hit all of the standards, including all of our special areas on this choice board. And so all of the choices were going to be standards aligned, but as I said, there was not really any interdisciplinary connections. So that was kind of where we started. And then the first week we were doing NTI. I happened upon Ryan New and Suzanne Kramer's creating choice boards using compelling questions PD. They offered on the digital channel, actually. So once I saw that, I just kind of had this aha moment that maybe, just maybe, if I could get all of our teams to go that route, our learning could be much more focused, and it would help frame the learning for the students and make it more meaningful if they were asking questions and researching and doing fun activities that deepened their content knowledge, increased their level of rigor, kept everything driven towards that compelling question. And we know that these compelling question boards would help allow for interdisciplinary tasks, so they could interweave these content areas together. Danielle's going to tell you a couple more reasons why we think compelling question boards were important.
Okay. I can go first.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just didn't want Danielle to be confused. So we also decided that it provides student choice and voice in the work. Our choice boards have about 10 activities on them that students can choose from. So they're choosing 5 of the 10. So they're not only choosing what they're doing, but they're also choosing how they submit their work. So we're giving them options. If they want to submit their work via a drawing or a video, sometimes they're doing writing. They are choosing, how they're going to submit, but they're also guiding their own learning and answering their own supporting questions that get them to the compelling question. So because of that, it also sparks student curiosity and increases engagement because they are doing their learning, they're guiding themselves, and they are taking their learning wherever they want to go.
It also creates a purpose for learning. Our kiddos have clear goals, and we have clear goals as a team. The students know what they are working toward, and all activities tie into this. There are truly no filler activities on these choice boards when we're using the compelling questions. It opens the possibility for students to have multiple answers to questions. Our activities might be research-based or open-ended, allowing the students to choose their own avenue. I would say that's especially true when we get to our final task on our compelling questions. The students can take lots of different avenues. It's really cool to see all the different ways it comes together for them. So it's truly a PBL experience for them. It helps students gain awareness of other perspectives. Our students discuss the final projects or activities with one another and hear and see one another's work and point of view. We also include that through some of our provided activities in the research that we're having them take into.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, we have lots of reasons to turn towards building these choice boards around compelling questions. And also, if you listen to Ryan's new session, which I know him and Suzanne are having another session today and tomorrow at 12:30, so you may want to catch that. There's a lot of research backing this compelling question inquiry-based model. So we really wanted to practice including more content into our lessons, and this provided us the time and honestly the grace to do that because we knew we were going to have to fumble through this process, and we wanted to use this time to help ourselves learn how to plan better. So where we are in the process right now, I'll just quickly say that all of our grade levels are now creating these choice boards around compelling questions. I left it open to team leaders and to teams. And for very first week, teachers planned NTI. I already had 3 teams willing to jump on it the first week. Let's jump in, figure out how to do this. By the second week, I was able to show the other 3 teams what they had come up with, and then everybody was on board. So by week 2, every single grade level team was planning in this way, including our special area teachers, which has been such a critical and important component of the work we're doing. We are aligning every content as best we can to this work. So special area teachers are even using supporting questions to create their task as well. Most of our teams are actually using compelling questions for a 2-week period. So I think Danielle has a sample she'll show you in a bit. And so the summative assignment that we are creating is going on to the end of that second week compelling question choice board. So you'll see that. And then also, just to reiterate, our teams are amazing. Our teachers do not stop until this work is done. We are still meeting with PLCs every single week. And, generally in school, our PLCs might be 50 minutes, but our teachers are some of the hardest working people I know. I have been in PLCs over 2 hours with some of them because they don't want to give up until they think they've exhausted every idea to make this right. So kudos to our teachers who are really putting in massive amounts of time and effort to make this happen. And so now all of our choice boards are following these questions. We are working towards creating compelling questions and supporting questions. And the tricky part, honestly, is aligning standards to those tasks. That has been hard, but we are working to make sure that's happening as well. So I want to turn this over to Olivia and Danielle so you can hear from their point of view what it is like to plan like this with their team. And they're going to kind of speak to the process of where they started that first week and where they are now in this process. So Olivia, you want to go first?
Yes. So the first week we were creating the choice boards. I think in our mind we kind of misunderstood. So in our mind, the choice board was more of like a theme. So we were pulling standards that we were working on, but the standards and the activities didn't necessarily help the students answer the compelling questions. So, for example, at the top on the right, it says create a story problem. So we asked students to create. Oh, it left. Can you still see it? Can you guys still see I can't see the.
Yep.
You're Click on the middle pop.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. So the students were asked to create 2 addition and subtraction story problems about spring. So we were thinking weather, spring, that goes, like, we'll do that. But as we started to learn more and things like that, we, decided, okay, these activities are not helping the students to answer these compelling questions. So we moved from that to planning more intentionally. We identify a compelling question first, and then we decide what supporting questions are going to help them get to that compelling question. And then we look at the standards that we're using and then create activities to match those standards. It's really easy to get caught up in like creating these fun assignments and, you can get going really fast and then realize like, hey, this doesn't match what we were supposed to be doing at this time. So that has been a challenge, like Carrie said, is, making sure that your standards are aligning. But we're working with special area teachers, like Carrie said, and they're coming up with questions and activities that match the supporting questions and that are leading the students to the compelling question. So we've come a long way since the beginning. And, we've done much better, and the kids are enjoying it. The engagement is a lot higher. I'll say that I have some kids that complete their 5 assignments and then they are like, Miss Penland, I really want to do this one. And next thing I know, when they turn it in, they have all 10 assignments finished. So it's really exciting to see that. And, that they're doing this much learning and we're able to connect all the different standards and things like that together. So we've really come a long way, and it's been for the better. We're really excited about that.
Thank you for sharing, Olivia. And here's Danielle with 4th grade.
Okay, so 4th grade's journey was very similar to kindergarten's. At first, we came up with our compelling question. It's surrounded with our science standard with structures and functions, and it was how do the structures of living things impact the way they live. We didn't really have supporting questions yet. We weren't really sure exactly how to get going there, so we literally pulled anything we could that could tie into our compelling question. And we were just pulling resources from everywhere, like, oh, this fits for science, this fits for math. And it wasn't terrible. It was just more theme-based for our kiddos with no clear direction. We had no clear final project for them. We did eventually do a final project, but we didn't really, we weren't as intentional with making sure that all of our activities tied into that. The students liked the work. They even theme-based, but we knew that we could be more intentional in guiding them and making sure our activities got there. So what we have really changed too is that now in 4th grade, we start when we plan by doing a compelling question just the same way. So this one is, how does a pandemic affect my community? When we start planning, the first thing we do as a team is we start with the compelling question, start brainstorming all of our potential supporting questions. What are all the different topics that we want to dive into? What do we want our students to be learning? And then we look at our standards that we are currently working on, and we align those with those supporting questions. So making sure that those standards will fit into those supporting questions, and maybe what do we need to change in those supporting questions to make sure that we can get there. We then create our final task so that we know our end goal for our kiddos, make sure that lines up with our supporting questions and our standards. And then we go through and add all of these individual tasks. So what you see here is the week 1 of this choice board. Each week, the students get a new choice board. The second week, as Carrie said, will be their final project. So these are just a few of these supporting questions that we had in week 1 to get them started with how does a pandemic affect my community? All of our activities are super intentional with a clear purpose. There are no fillers on this choice board. The students literally need to understand all of this to be able to get to the end goal. The students have a choice in how they complete each activity. So each activity hits every level of learners. We have students creating videos. We have students creating drawings, diagrams. We have students showing their math work using manipulative websites. It's limitless what the students are doing right now, and they are really diving in and going for it. So whenever we do our supporting questions and we get to our final project, this choice board right here does not show you our final project in 4th grade, but I will tell you that all these supporting questions, how is the pandemic impacting my life directly? How can we protect ourselves? What is a pandemic? All of those supporting questions are leading our students to do the time capsule with the Fraser History Museum in 4th grade. They're going to be creating a video, a piece of art, a digital journal using Jamboard, anything showing how the pandemic affects their community. And they're going to be really tying in all of the different things that they have learned as they have taken on all of these supporting question activities. So we are extremely excited to see what they come up with that. And they're already starting to brainstorm ideas and talk about it. So this might seem very intense, and it looks intense, just sitting here looking at it, thinking where we started and where we are now. But honestly, from a teacher perspective, it has made planning so much easier. It has been challenging at times to tie those standards in, especially math. We all know that math can be very challenging to tie into PBLs. But knowing our clear goal has really helped us find ways to sit together and figure out how to tie it in. And even though math can be very challenging sometimes to tie in, we have made it work. It has tied in. We have not sat here since we started the compelling questions without being able to tie it in. Our students are highly engaged, as Olivia said. I cannot speak to that enough. I have so many kids who are sitting here telling me in office hours, I can't pick just 5. I really want to do this. So they really want to continue to work on other choice boards or choice board opportunities. Everyone is literally all in with this on my team. When we come to plan together, we all sit with this goal. We know, I think it has really helped us to identify our compelling question, our supporting question, so that we have that driving force saying, hey, no, let's stick back to this plan. So that is my biggest advice and the biggest, I think, win for us as a team in 4th grade, especially, and I think across all grade levels at Carrick right now, is having that driving force. Once you've made your plan, you have something to stick to that can help you start to tie everything in.
Thank you so much. And Danielle is right. This does look overwhelming at first, but we come at it with a team. So we've got 4 special area teachers working on this, 3 classroom teachers working on this, and I am also there to support, and often other teachers jump in. Our special education teachers are jumping in, admin may jump in. So there are a lot of people having discussions around this, and this is definitely one of the biggest reasons why I think we're all growing so well together, because we're all doing the work together. So thinking about what our next steps are at Carrick and where we are in the process, we really want to continue to strengthen our planning design. So thinking about that backwards planning design, where that compelling question is really the end task. This is what we want our kids to be able to understand and be able to create an argument and defend with reasoning and evidence their answer. And so what are those supporting questions that will drive them there? So we're really continuing to work on that. It's not easy. We won't lie. It's been a challenge. And it's definitely a challenge to get your standards to connect, because you have a lot of things going on in your mind when you're planning this way. But it's much easier when you have your standards written out. You know exactly what you want to do. Like Danielle said, you start with that compelling question and brainstorm all those supporting questions you think may align. And then we start looking for the resources to support those questions and that work. We're going to continue to work on increasing our interdisciplinary connections. Danielle mentioned math is hard to connect. That has really been the greatest subject area that's been a challenge for us. But you can imagine PE doesn't always connect to every single supporting question. Generally, writing, anything literacy-based, writing and reading, we can connect to anything. But some of the other areas are harder. So it takes a lot of brainstorming. And we want to continue to get better with that. And we also want to keep working on creating meaningful summative tasks. The thing fourth grade's doing with the Fraser Museum is very meaningful. They're living through this right now, and they can be able to showcase their work publicly and have some voice and choice in the way they do that. So we want to keep creating activities that have voice and choice for our students. And right now we're starting to lean into a little bit, how do we create a rubric that really gives us what we're looking for and guides the students' work? And then how do we make sure we're giving good quality feedback? Because we know feedback is what moves students. They need critical feedback. So we're keeping on in that process to move in that direction. And then we're wanting to find through NTI just better ways to help students showcase their learning with each other. So we have a lot of students that jump in on teachers' office hours and they want to come and share their work there, but how can we make it bigger? So we keep brainstorming and thinking of ways to do that. And so really thinking ahead, I really want you to hear from Danielle and Olivia how we think this type of planning is going to influence teaching and learning in the future. So, ladies, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yeah, so we have kind of talked about this together. We talked about using this in workshop to tie not only subjects together, but also teachers. We've worked really hard with special area teachers through this NTI process. And, if we were to work with special area teachers once we get back into the classroom to make sure that we're still continuing to work together and there's no disconnect, I can see where that would really help our kiddos. We also talked about in kindergarten, tying these into workshop and having things like shaded boxes or things to help kiddos decide things that they must do and things that they may do to kind of guide them, but help them support their learning. And we've also talked about how this can help with backpack artifacts too, in ways that students can really put lots of work and things in their backpack for that as well. Danielle, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I really wanted to emphasize Olivia's comment about special area and incorporating everything together, especially I know in the intermediate grades where I am currently, time is precious. Time is precious anywhere in school, but when we're sitting there with all of these loaded standards and we're thinking, okay, how do I fit in science and social studies and writing and get everything going? These choice boards are the answer. I'm thinking when we go back to the traditional classroom, how great would this be to have this in front of your students and them seeing how all the subjects tie together throughout the entire day in workshop, no matter if they're in reading, math, science, wherever they are, they're working on something for this choice board and seeing how all of these contents tie together. It's not a separate reading block, a separate math block. We're really maximizing our time by being able to do that. And we're also allowing special area to feel connected with our classrooms and our students to be able to dive a little bit deeper into these topics.
I agree with both of them. Also, in considering how hard it is in elementary to really have a big block of time to focus to content. We know that's a big challenge for us in the elementary grades, especially in primary. So look at the opportunity we're giving our kids to have rich access to content across the board, where they can focus on things that interest them and dig deeper in the learning and come up with brilliant ways of showcasing their learning, opportunities that we haven't really provided them before. So now they're going to be used to this because we've been doing this work during NTI. So next year just really opens the door to lots of possibilities. What I'm seeing as a coach through this work is that our teachers are really learning how to plan more rigorous activities. We're not doing simple recall and understanding. They're really amping up levels of Bloom's using this choice board and creating activities that ask our students to evaluate and create. So I really love the ideas that they have about bringing this work into workshop next year. And including content across all the disciplines. We did last year really try to tackle project-based learning, and the hardest part is getting together with all of the team, all of the special area teachers, and everyone who can have input to help strengthen those projects. And what we have found through creating choice boards is that it just lends a perfect way for everyone to plan together. So even if our special area teachers cannot join PLC because it's too much to ask that they join 6 or 7 PLCs every week, they can quickly go to the choice board, see the compelling question, see what supporting question might be helpful for them to create a task for the students and work on that board while they're not with us. And it still all goes toward the same message. And we really like the choice boards for that reason as well. So that's all we actually have for you today. So we thank you for joining us. You can reach out. Of course, we're on JCPS email, so feel free to email any of us if you have questions about this. And I really, really advise, if you're interested in doing this, to catch Ryan and Suzanne's PD today or tomorrow at 12:30. They go in depth about the research and the why and the how for using compelling questions to drive instruction. So thank you so much. And I didn't see any questions in the chat. Did I miss anything?
You just have a huge shout out to your whole team and all the teachers at Carrick, because this is amazing. Dr. Coleman's even in here and she says this needs to be repeated 1,000 times. Think about what we are hearing: collaboration, intentional alignment with the standards, and the importance of feedback. And just think of the differentiation of those backpack artifacts is awesome. It's not one size cookie cutter things that we, the kids are doing. So you ladies need a huge shout out and a pat on the back. So good job. And thank you for all you are doing for your students and the other students here now in JCPS, because together we're brilliant and you are sharing your knowledge with everybody else as well. So good job, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
You have a great day. And as it is rounding to be 12 o'clock, we are actually going to take a short break. And I have my teammate, Jim Unger, who's going to be taking over this control room for me. And if you are watching live real quick, we actually are going live on Kentucky Go Digital right now. So if you want to hop over to kygodigital.com, you'll also see a really awesome show about digital citizenship. So I hope to see you there. And we're going to sign off for now and have a good day.